Mixed messages from the White House on whether President Trump is under investigation in the Russia probe. Earlier this week, Mr. Trump making no bones about it, tweeting, quote, "I am being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." Witch hunt. But today, as a member of the president's legal team contradicted that, said Mr. Trump is not under investigation. On Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace grilling him for a clear answer.
He's being investigated for taking the action that the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General recommended him to take by the agency who recommended the termination. So that's the constitutional threshold question here. And that's why, as I said, no investigation.
What's the question? I mean, you stated some facts. First of all, you've now said that he is being investigated after saying that you didn't.
No.
You just said,
no, he's
sir,
not being investigated.
Tara Mahler is a spokesperson for the Counter-Extremism Project and a former CIA military analyst. Tara, is he or isn't he?
It seemed like there's a lot of wordsmithing going on. That was a fabulous interview earlier by Chris Wallace. But basically, the point of contention here is that we don't really know if he's under investigation. We had President Trump tweet that he was under investigation. Now his attorney was saying he was responding to a Washington Post article. We then have the attorney sort of switching the terminology, saying they haven't been notified about an investigation. At the end of the day, I'm not sure it fully matters. And I say that because he might not be under investigation today, but we know that his associates are, and we know that the investigation can change over time. So whether he is in the next 24 hours or yesterday, this is all a fluid situation. We saw Comey say he wasn't when Comey was leading the investigation, but that could change as they speak to more people, as they review more documents. That's how an investigation works.
Very early stages of the process. Things are fluid and changing.
Very early stages. You're just having the team hired up now. You're just having the witness list put together. You're just seeing requests for documents. And I say this not just about Special Counsel Mueller's investigation, but also both the House and Senate investigation. So we're still very early. We know that close associates of President Trump and those on the campaign are under investigation, General Flynn being a primary example. So President Trump, whether he is or isn't the focal point, undoubtedly his conversations are going to come under scrutiny. His documents and finances are going to come under scrutiny. And I think for the purposes of the investigation right now, that's all that really matters.
And possibly tapes. The president hinted that there might be tapes. And we want to just play what the president said and then get your reaction to this.
Sure.
When will you tell us about the recording?
Over a fairly short period of time.
Tomorrow now? Are there tapes, sir?
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer. Don't worry.
So, I mean, we don't know if there are tapes. Is it legal to have tapes? Is it legal to demand those tapes if they exist?
We don't know if they're tapes. I'm not a lawyer. I'd imagine if there are tapes, whether that be through some sort of system installed in the Oval Office itself or recorded on his own on a personal device of some sort, I have no doubt those tapes will be requested by the committees, as they have been already, with a deadline of Friday, and by Special Counsel Mueller for the ongoing investigation. And if they are not turned over, they will be subpoenaed. Again, this is if there are tapes. If there aren't tapes, I think the president owes an explanation as to why he would imply that there perhaps were. It seems sort of, flippant, but this is an investigation with national security at its core. I mean, at the heart of this is Russia collusion in our election. We forget that in the midst of all this other stuff going on, obstruction of justice potentially, and all these other, ongoing parallel investigations. But I think he's going to need to turn them over if they do exist, and I think that they'll be subpoenaed if they're not turned over, again, if they exist. I'm curious to see. He said he was going to have a response. It's been some time now. We haven't heard again from the president about the tapes.
And I wonder why he would say there were tapes if there weren't tapes, unless he's implying that there might be tapes, so that Comey better be very careful about what he says.
In either case, it seems problematic, and you're exactly right. If he were just sort of saying there might be tapes to influence Comey's remarks or testimony in some way, that also seems somewhat problematic. I mean, this is the President of the United States. I hope that they wouldn't be just sort of trying to make coercive statements about fake tapes on Twitter, but who knows?
Tara, Comey called the president a liar, and the president called Comey a liar. So how do we know who's telling the truth? And will we ever know who's telling the truth?
I think we will know, because I have faith in our intelligence community and our law enforcement community, and I have faith that the investigation will run its course, and that's how investigations work. And everyone is, innocent until proven guilty, the associates being looked at, and obviously the president himself. Having said that, everyone's framing it as a he said, and we heard from Comey in terms of his testimony, and we heard the president accuse him of lying, but we haven't yet heard what the president's account of the conversation was. So why did the president kick individuals out of the room and want to speak to Comey alone? why was he bringing up Flynn if he was, and what was the nature of that conversation? I'm not sure we've heard both sides yet, so the human response when someone's telling a version of events, the human reaction when you don't agree with that version is to sort of offer your own, and the president didn't do that in his press conference. He just sort of shut down Comey's version.
It seems like opponents are trying to use this to derail Trump's presidency, and I'm wondering if this is about Democrats and opponents smelling blood, or you think there's more to this?
So I do think that this has unfortunately in some regards become political, but I also think that in some regards it's remained quite bipartisan. The Senate Intel Committee is a very good example of the bipartisan nature. Mueller is really not a partisan pick for the head of this investigation. In fact, he was picked by Rosenstein, the president's own, Justice Department pick. So I think that basically we're going to see it run its course. I have faith in the investigation. I think that at the end of the day, the truth is going to come out, whether that's regarding a financial investigation, whether that's about collusion potentially, or whether it's just more information about General Flynn and other associates that were perhaps engaged in wrongdoing, and then, of course, potential obstruction of justice charges.
We shall see, Tara. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.